too much stuff up here. Good afternoon. I call to order the Knox County Zoning Board for December 9th, 2024. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rawls,
Present.
Commissioner Durrett, Commissioner Oster,
Here.
Commissioner Jackson,
Here.
Commissioner Russell, Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Fox, Commissioner Jay, Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
10 members are present.
Thank you. And I'll now turn it over to the Law Director to swear in individuals.
All right, if you're here to speak to this body on any item on the agenda, either for or against, please stand and raise your right hand. If you plan to speak to this body today on any item on the agenda, please stand and raise your right hand. All right, do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Be seated, please.
Thank you very much. And I will now turn it over to Commissioner Hill for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll go over our amendments to the agenda. We have no additions. We have, for withdrawals, 9, 13, and 18. Defer to January is number 7, 8, 10, and 19. I'll do that one more time. Addition 0, withdrawals 9, 13, 18, defer to January 7, 8, 10, and 19. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the amendments of the agenda?
Motion to set the amended agenda.
I got a motion by Commissioner Frazier, second by Commissioner Thompson. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Approval of minutes of previous meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Frazier, second by Commissioner Lee. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Public forum is for the agenda items only. So, Madam Clerk, if you will read the first item.
Item number 1, 11-B-24-RZ is a request of Terry and Wilma C. Gaylor for rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential. Property located at 1915 Andes Road, parcel ID 105AA005 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? We will move this one to the end. Do next item, please.
Item number 2, 11-C-24-RZ is a request of Teresa Hawley for rezoning from I industrial to RA low-density residential. Property located at 7960 Ball Camp Pike, parcel ID 09122-602 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Do we have the applicant present? If you'll come to the podium, please. If you will push that button on the black box there and speak directly in, just give your name and county residence for the record, please.
Teresa Hawley, Knox County. What else?
That's it. You're good. Do we have any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RA low-density residential zone because it is consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan and due to the change of conditions in the area.
Ms. Hawley, would you like to speak to your project?
No, it's just residential.
Okay, all right. Do any commissioners have any questions? Seeing none, I will turn it over to District Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. How are you, Ms. Hawley?
Hi.
I did drive out and look at the property, and clearly I know exactly where you are. You are aware that about 2 acres of this is under the hillside, on hillside protection. So if you
if you are going to develop several parcels on that, you'll need to be quite careful with some of those limitations.
I'm only planning on one home there.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, okay. That's probably why you're asking for RA instead of PR? Great. Well, I have no objections to this at all, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve RA because it's consistent with Knox County Comprehensive Plan and conditions in the area.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill, a second by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck with your project, Ms. Holly. Have a good evening. Next item, please.
Item number 3, 11-E-24-RZ is a request of Humberto Rodriguez for rezoning from RA low-density residential to PR planned residential up to 5 dwelling units per acre. Property located at 0 Cureton Road, parcel ID 105-00401 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Hi.
Hey.
If you would state your name and county of residence, please.
David Harbin here in Knox County.
Thank you. Do we have any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 5 dwelling units per acre because it's consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan and surrounding development.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your project?
Just to approve as approved at NPC, please.
Okay. Do we have any questions from any commissioners? Seeing none, I'll turn it over to District Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Hey, doing good.
Good. I'm assuming the request from the RA to PR is to try to get another dwelling or two?
Yes, we have a concept plan in for this month for 8 units, for 8
All right.
single-family detached houses here.
All right, fine. I did go out and look at that, and it seems appropriate for the area, so I have no objections to this, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve PR zoning up to 5 per acre.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Jay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck with your project.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item number 4 is request of Solway Park Enterprises LLC for rezoning from PR planned residential up to 3 dwelling units per acre to PR planned residential up to 3.75 dwelling units per acre. Property located at 3208 Solway Road, parcel ID 089-127-12701 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? If you'll come to the podium, please, state your name and county of residence. And the light looks like it's still on, so just speak directly into the mic, please.
David Presley, 1723 Evening Shade Lane, Knox County.
Do we have any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 3.75 dwelling units per acre because it's consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your project?
No, ma'am. If we got a recommendation, I'm good with that.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, we'll turn it over to District Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello.
You trying to get one more house on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you going to put it?
Oh, it's in the front. There's a design. It's for 4 units across the front.
4 across
Well,
the
that's
front?
2 duplexes, actually.
Okay. All right. Well, in the end, this adds one more unit to the whole thing, so, do I see, Ms. Frazier, that you have a question?
Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Just wanted to address the sinkhole that seems to be in the center of the parcel. Do you have any concerns with development? That's either for the applicant, planning staff, engineering.
We addressed the sinkhole. I mean, we're well within the buffer zone where that is located. Or we'll not
Is it
have any
50
structure
feet?
inside the buffer zone.
50 feet from the sinkhole?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. As long as you're aware of the 50-foot buffer.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
are.
Thank you.
All right.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question, I guess, for staff. Seeing that this is right next to Solway Park and the ballpark, were there any stipulation or conditions for buffering between the park and this property? Any thoughts or concerns?
Commissioner, we didn't have any initial concerns or a requirement of a buffer.
I guess, Commissioner Hill, you're more familiar with this property than I am. Are there, thinking about the residents who would live here at Solway Park and the ballpark, are there lots of bright lights and things that or, I don't know.
No,
I didn't drive out there.
yeah, that's a very fair question. This is a very small park. It has one ball field way in the back, kind of down in a gully. And it is a park, loosely speaking, I suppose would be the best way to put it. So it isn't much like you think of a more traditional park that's got a lot of amenities to it. So, no, I don't have any concerns with that. Again, it's a matter of adding one more house to something that's already been zoned. So I don't think one is going to, make a difference in traffic counts and that type of thing. So for those reasons, if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve this up to 3.75 units per acre.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill and a second by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck with your project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 5, request of Faraz Mishu for a comprehensive plan amendment from SR Suburban Residential, HP Hillside Protection, and SP Stream Protection to CMU Corridor Mixed Use, HP Hillside Protection, and SP Stream Protection, property located at 0 Oak Ridge Highway, parcel ID is 090-050-06306, part of, in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Applicant present.
Ben
Hello.
Mullins, 550 West Main Street, here for Mr. Mishu.
Thank you. And do we have any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the plan amendment to CMU Corridor Mixed Use Place Type because it meets the criteria for a plan amendment. The HP Hillside Protection and SP Stream Protection would be retained.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the project, Mr. Mullins?
Yeah, briefly, this was approved, both the plan amendment and the rezoning 13-0 on consent. Mr. Mishu owns M&W Drilling, which has been there quite some time, been an established business in the community. In fact, there were public comments online. All of them were supportive of Mr. Mishu and his business. I know he does a lot for the community out there as well. He has current CA zoning that was done back in. Actually, he had the CA zoning. He wanted to expand back in, I think, 2016 maybe. I'm doing that off memory, so that might be faulty. He had to get a sector plan amendment because for whatever reason it was incompatible with the CA zoning that was there. He got that amendment, then a few months later the sector plan changed again and took that amendment away from him. He didn't realize it. So we're trying to put the compatible place type for CA zoning on the property that's already zoned CA, is already in operation for several years. And he wants to be able to expand into that area that's currently OS. Allow him to park some additional vehicles there. He's run out of space. Most of that is in the floodway, and pretty much all you can do in the floodway is park vehicles. But it does need to be CA as well to be part of his business. So we're asking that the place type for the CMU be expanded into that area, and then the zoning be expanded as well. And Commissioner Frazier, you asked about 15-foot landscape buffer. I think that area on the south, that area is pretty much already wooded. He's willing to keep that. He would like to keep some of the larger trees and then maybe clear out some of the scrub brush and replace that with some nicer landscaping, but he doesn't have an issue with that.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick comment. I wanted to say thank you to the applicant for reaching out to the community and having very positive conversations and working with them. It's not often that we see public comments that are positive and supportive, so I very much appreciate that.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, turn it over to District Commissioner Hill.
Yes, thank you. And I, too, very much appreciate the comments that were presented. This is a very stable, older business in the community, very neat. It's a drilling operation, but but you wouldn't know it driving by. They really do a good job with what's there and have no reason to believe they won't continue with this expansion. It is well located there on Oak Ridge Highway in the outskirts of the Kearns community. So for all those reasons, I would like to recommend that we approve the comprehensive plan amendment to hillside protection and stream, to CMU, corridor mixed use, hillside protection and stream protection.
All right, I've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck with your project. Next item, please. Oh, he knows.
Item number 6, 11-R-24-RZ, is a request of Faraz Mishu for rezoning from OS Open Space and F Floodway to CA General Business and F Floodway. Property located at 0 Oak Ridge Highway, parcel ID is the same as the last item. This is in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. State your name, please.
Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street, here for Mr. Mishu.
Thank you. No opposition to this item. Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the CA General Business Zone because of the change of conditions in the area by a vote of 13-0. The floodway zone will be retained.
Thank you. Anything else you want to add?
Nothing
Okay.
additional, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to the District Commissioner, I might suggest making sure that we include the condition of retaining any vegetation where possible. And Mr. Mullins can help with that.
Yeah,
It's-
he'd like to keep larger trees, 4 inches in diameter or larger, remove the smaller trees and brush, and then, plant some manicured grass and some smaller brushes and trees to fill in between the existing trees. So just a 15-foot vegetative buffer, keeping as much of the larger vegetation as possible.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Hill?
Thank you.
And that would be along the south side, excuse me, yes.
Yes, and if you'll, if any of you look at the map, you can see that over half of this is in floodplain, and there's already quite a bit of vegetation and trees and all through it. I do appreciate your comment, Commissioner Frazier, and would like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the rezoning to CA General Business and F floodplain with the condition of a 15-foot landscape buffer to be minimum to be retained along the south portion of that property.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck with your project. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is item number 11-10-L-24-RZ, is a request of Taylor D. Forrester to remove a previously approved non-disturbance condition in the PRK planned residential up to 3.25 dwelling units per acre district. Property located at 7816 Ball Camp Pike, parcel ID 091226 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Present. Mr. Forrester, I'm going to have Law Director Moyers swear you in because I know you came in afterwards.
I was sworn in.
Oh, you were?
Yes, I
Okay, I'm
was.
sorry. I thought you came in after. I apologize. Any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Make sure I'm on the right one here. So Planning Commission recommends County Commission maintain the non-disturbance condition on slopes 25% or greater because it's consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan with the exception of allowing a 2-lane subdivision road.
Thank you. Mr. Forrester, would you like to speak to your project?
Yes, Taylor Forrester, 1111 North Shore Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919, here on behalf of the property owner. So this condition, the way it was adopted, was initially was a fully non-disturbance condition on any grade 25% or more. So the previous applicant was not my client that obtained the rezoning. The previous applicant had the property under contract and then owned a small adjacent parcel that I guess they planned to gain access from that adjacent parcel to the rear portion on the backside of this hillside. So the problem my client does not own the adjacent property and does not have any ability to access. And that limitation sets it to where essentially cannot access approximately two-thirds of the property. So we moved for the modification, removal of the condition. We're completely fine with the modification recommended by Planning Commission. That is all we need is access for a subdivision road. No plans willing to limit and maintain any kind of condition of non-disturbance. Don't plan on any lots, developing any lots in that area. We've had our engineer for the project design a road profile as to what that kind of disturbance area would look like. And in this area in question, we're looking at a little over an acre only of disturbance for this two-lane road. Again, essentially landlocked for two-thirds of the property, right over this hillside portion or the 25% grade. It's fairly reasonable development area. Now, Planning Commission, Planning Staff report denotes based on it's a split zoning, it's both PR, but different densities that you could get anywhere up to 79 lots. No plans to build 79 lots. The plan would be anywhere from 55 to 60 lots, depending on the engineering. Again, could limit that density, condition that density of maximum of 60 lots. Again, just trying to get the highest and best use of the client's property for a responsible development. We think the engineering, the road profile, again, a little over an acre of disturbance is all we have here, all we're asking for, just so we can access that portion of the property. Density would be substantially less than what was contemplated under the initial rezoning. My client had no idea about the condition until after they bought the property and engaged engineer to prepare a development plan to go through Planning Commission approval for the development of the residential subdivision under the PR guidelines. Again, we had asked that you follow the recommendation of Planning Commission to allow limited disturbance just for the subdivision road. Again, that's all we're asking for. We'd hope that you'd support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair. Sorry about that, Madam Chair.
Sorry, been a long night.
Director Brooks, can you speak to planning staff's recommendation to deny?
Yes, I can. Planning staff's recommendation to deny was really based on that previous zoning request earlier in the year. We aim to be as consistent as we can be. And so that one had just come in. We were concerned about the steep slopes in the middle portion of that site. And as Mr. Forrester stated, when the previous applicant had come through, they had access through an adjacent parcel. And so at that time, it made sense to allow that rezoning on the backside and condition it to where they couldn't disturb that middle portion of the site. Obviously, conditions and ownership have changed.
So the access to the site has changed.
Correct.
Thank you.
One thing I forgot to mention, I have discussed with Mr. Snowden, showed the road profile that was designed by our engineer. I believe Mr. Snowden is comfortable with that road profile. It has a curve, 15% or less grade of that road profile. Again, we've got 20 acres here, and this condition makes about 15 acres unusable or no access to.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will turn it over to District Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. Mr. Forrester, I appreciate that we've talked about this a great deal. I've also talked to the engineer on it. I know that it can be done, but I've made my intention pretty clear. There is a reason that 2 times planning staff turned this down. It is right over the probably one of the highest points of the ridge. I actually drove the private road next to it, and the name has skipped me. And once you get past the flatter point, it narrows down to a very steep road. In fact, coming back down it is one of those you can't see over, you have to kind of hold your breath. And in that heavily wooded, hilly portion, there are a few homes out back there. It looks like they're probably on at least 5 or 10 acre lots. So the idea of running a subdivision road up and over that ridge to access that back piece, I am very sorry that your clients were not aware of that condition when they bought the property. But quite honestly, that's not really our concern. And for those reasons, that just to cut a road through that ridge, I just cannot tolerate that personally, and especially after I went out and drove it. It's just really too steep to have steady traffic on, in my opinion. So I am supporting planning staff on both readings in this and recommending against this request to eliminate the condition that's on the property.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill and a second by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Forrester. Next item.
Item number 12, 9-I-24-RZ is a request of Benjamin C. Mullins for rezoning from A agricultural to PR planned residential up to 24 dwelling units per acre. Property located at 2528 and 2536 West Beaver Creek Drive, parcel ID 067, 061, 062 in the 7th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins.
Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street here for the applicant.
We do have opposition to this, Mr. Queener. Yes, sir. So, Mr. Mullins, you'll have 5 minutes, and then opposition, you will have 5 minutes. So, Director Brooks, if you'll go ahead with your recommendation.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 12 dwelling units per acre because it is compatible with the surrounding zoning and consistent with the comprehensive plan, subject to one condition.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins.
Yes, thank you. This is in the traditional neighborhood TN place type, which in the county, that is, the place type that allows the kind of most diversity and for different types of zoning, including PR for up to 24 units an acre, which is what our original request was, because at the time, the developer, Mr. Denton, who's here as well, could speak to this, wasn't quite sure exactly what he wanted to do with the property, and so when we filed the application, he was still studying it. By the time staff came back and recommended the 12 units an acre, we were in complete agreement with that, and he wants to move forward with a townhome development on this property. If you look, there's quite a bit of diversity of zoning in that area. There's CA that's just there to the southwest on Clinton Highway, and that allows consideration of multifamily up to 24 units an acre. There's OB just to the northeast, and that allows consideration for multifamily up to 24 units an acre. And even though a lot of this is still zoned agricultural, it is in that traditional neighborhood place type, which is, a clear policy decision to looking at for kind of diversity of housing stock and kind of a transition between some of those more intensive zones. So the 12 units an acre fits really squarely with that. There are improvements. There's a realignment for West Beaver Creek to Clinton Highway. Those are anticipated to be concluded by 2026, but again, a lot of that depends on TDOT's time schedule, and we don't always control that. So because of that, planning staff recommended a condition to the zoning that we not be allowed to pull more than 24 residential permits until those improvements have been completed. And we don't have an objection to making sure that the development isn't fully built out until the road improvements are complete, but we wanted some flexibility to, if TDOT is not further along than we anticipate them to be, to still protect, that intersection while it's being in transition. And so we worked with Director Snowden on, an alternative condition to that is to maintain the condition about no more than 24 building permits, or putting an island there that would not allow left turns while those improvements are going on. So that way, If we wanted to continue to build and develop the property, then it would still, prevent, traffic from going that way until those intersection improvements have been completed. And the improvements are, I think, supposed to realign and widen that intersection about 300 feet to the east of this property, so it's almost to the property line. We have reached out to several of the neighbors. Many of them are in support of this. Mr. Queener is not. I know he has concerns. He owns the property, I think, to the southeast of there with, has the large pond on it, and he's concerned about erosion and water runoff and traffic concerns and things like that. Most of those things is something that will get worked out as we move forward with the concept and a development plan. But this is an area that is in transition. It is growing. It's consistent with the advanced Knox policies that we just implemented. And I think it's consistent with, what this area is transitioning to. So we would ask that you would approve this per staff's and planning commission's recommendation, and like to reserve the rest of my time to address any concerns that may be raised by Mr. Queener. Thank you very much.
And that's 222 we'll put back for Mr. Mullins. Mr. Queener, if you'll state your name and county of residence for the record, and you've got up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Dave Queener, 2701 Lakewood Lane, Knoxville, Tennessee. I speak for the immediate neighbors to this property that are on West Beaver Creek Drive. I also speak for all the residents of Lakewood Lane. And we are asking that this development not be thrust upon us, which would fundamentally change the nature of our neighborhood. Yes, there is a corner lot which has been zoned commercial for many, many years and remains undeveloped, in which cows used to graze. We ourselves used to have cows. There's a hobby farm immediately next door to this property, which this development will be destructive of. When you start paving over land, you start getting oils running off, like the stream that supplies that hobby farm from my pond, it'll mean there's no longer a good potable water source. We're looking at unbridled development in Knox County, the destruction of some of the last decent remaining farmland, and a fundamental change to the characteristic of our neighborhood. You're talking about putting easily 250 people on 4.8 acres immediately adjacent to single-family dwellings. It is a fundamental change in the neighborhood. It's going to give a tremendous problem with liability with me and my pond that I've enjoyed since I was a boy. We always had open door policy to people to come and fish, but now what am I going to say? That many people are going to force us to say, I'm sorry, liability won't allow us to let you and your kids come and cast a lure. So this is not simply just an we're not in opposition to Mrs. Kirby. I want you to understand that. Mrs. Kirby's father and my father were good friends. They used to come and smoke cigars together. Mm-hmm. We're not in opposition to her putting several more houses on the same property. But this development will destroy the wildlife, and it will destroy the character of the neighborhood, and it will have to straddle a wet zone that is routinely flooding. It creates all sorts of problems, and we're asking, please do not thrust this upon us. Don't do this to us. Would you want it done to you in your neighborhood? Think about that. And I'll yield my, if I can rebut the rebuttal, then that's fine.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins?
Thank you, and I do appreciate Mr. Queener's comments. He spoke at Planning Commission as well, and the biggest concerns, I know he has concerns about liability. I mean, if you own a farm pond, then there's potential liability regardless of whether people are living there, and understand his concerns about that, being an attorney, obviously, but that liability is going to exist whether or not this property is developed. This property, yeah, there are challenges for it, which is why the planned residential zone is the right zone for this, because it's designed to take into account environmental constraints and allow more flexibility and development around those environmental constraints. And the stormwater, the hydrology, the water quality issues that Mr. Queener mentioned, we will have to work with Director Snowden and his group to make sure that we meet their very high stormwater and water quality conditions as we move forward. At most, with the requested zoning, you'd be looking at a maximum of 59 units an acre. Probably, once you design it, probably couldn't even get that many on there. And, the density request is an ask until you have a chance to design it. So And that close to Clinton Highway, that close to a commercial node, that close to a major road improvement project. This is the very area that we are looking to put this type of development. So we're not pushing it out into the areas that are more agricultural, that are more rural, that do have more sensitive farmland. So, you know, again, we've invested our time into looking at the advanced Knox. We came up with this TN place type. This is squarely in line with the policies that we have adopted over the past few years, and I'd ask that you approve per recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson, or I'm sorry, Commissioner Hill. I apologize.
Oh, I apologize.
Oh, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought Commissioner Hill was going first.
She didn't mean to have her light on.
I noticed on the staff's recommendation, one of the conditions was that no more than 24 residential building permits may be issued before the capital improvements at West Beaver Creek. At 24 units per acre, and Mr. Mullins, you said I should put 50 something in one location, or sorry. But my question is, at that density, I'm assuming you're talking about like apartments, correct?
No. See, that's what the confusion is. And some of the neighbors that were opposed to it thought we were doing apartments. We originally asked for 24 units an acre in our application. Staff's recommendation is 12 units an acre. And that's what we're asking for today is 12 units an acre, not 24. So that, the 24 are the building permits. So, you know, we asked for 24, 12 is the density, but 24 units. And so it gets confusing because of those two numbers. But no, it's townhome developments, and it's 12 units an acre. The density is 12 units an acre, but no more than 24 building permits could be issued by Knox County until the realignment is completed or until we put an island preventing a left-hand turn. That is the additional condition that we talked about with Director Snowden to address any traffic concerns until those road improvements can be done.
Okay. And then were there any, obviously with that density, there's probably not going to be a lot of vegetation left.
Well, with the townhome developments, they're attached units, so there's economies of scale with that. And so with the, there is a stream there. It may or may not be a blue line stream. There may or not be a wetland. That's stuff that we don't have the full engineering hydrology work done on that yet, but we'll have to cluster around that. And so, yeah, we do expect that there will be some vegetation left, and that, you know, this will be kind of clustered and concentrated in the areas that are less environmentally sensitive.
Okay.
Again, we don't have a full environmental plan or concept plan, but that's something that we'll have to take into consideration. And if that is a blue line stream, there are stream buffers that we'll have to recognize.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Snowden, you and I have gone back and forth on this one quite a bit, as well as Director Brooks. The biggest concern that stood out to me was the additional average daily vehicle trips and trying to look at the cumulative impact on West Beaver Creek. And Director Snowden, you talked quite a bit about the improvements and how it could possibly mitigate that concern. Would you speak to that, please, sir?
Sure, yeah, and Ben kind of alluded to it. The project stops pretty much right at this property line, and we're obviously realigning the road to move the intersection of Beaver Creek and Clinton Highway to the north so that we can install a traffic signal, because anybody that's ever tried to pull out of that location, it's very, very hazardous. So that project is, but obviously being also said, you know, it's TDOT managed. We're in the process of acquiring the right-of-way, which was our participation. We've got a couple of tracks left. We hope to turn that to TDOT by spring of the year. So I think once the and obviously we've had the roundabout we constructed on the other bookend of it. So from a traffic perspective, you know, Beaver Creek's, you know, probably around 20 feet wide. With these improvements that we'll have made, I mean, I think once those improvements are in place, I would be comfortable with that, which is why I kind of suggested if they did want to pursue development beforehand, that only way I would support that would be some kind of turn restriction to avoid additional traffic going towards that problematic intersection, and in lieu of going towards the roundabout at Brickyard. So I think that would be kind of where I would be on it. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry, hopefully I
No, it
captured
does.
all those things.
It does, thank you,
Thank
Director Snow. Ben, I know the applicant had reached out to several community members and was successful in having conversations with some of those. Can you tell me a little bit about those conversations and?
Yeah,
what the-
and he's here, he's had the conversation the most. I know there were some individuals that were opposed to this, again, thinking that, maybe because we asked for 24 units an acre and the recommendation is 12, they were going to do apartments and didn't want that. And once they understood, no, we're not doing apartments, we're not seeking 24 units an acre, it's going to be 12 units an acre, they were more comfortable with that. And I think there's the primary property owner across the street, I don't want to speak secondhand. I'll let Mr. Denton speak on it. I will say that the only phone call I received was from a lady who lives in the subdivision across the street who said, please do condominiums or townhomes there because I would love for my daughter to be able to move back into the area and live close to me. So that was the only direct interaction I had with any of the neighbors. Thank you.
Which, before we hear from Mr. Denton, just to clarify, the 12 units per acre and then the average daily vehicle trips estimated at 1,082, is that based on 12 or is that based on 24?
I don't know the answer to that question.
What, Commissioner Fraser, what was the numbers there again? I can
The
figure that
average
for you.
daily vehicle trips, 1,082. Number of
Okay.
students, 10. Is that based on 12 or is that based on 24?
Let me do calculation real quick.
Thank you all.
And while they're doing that, if I could, because I hate silence, I did reach out to Director Snowden as well about the capacity. Of course, when you're looking at a two-lane road, they really aren't, the average daily trips is only a part of the equation. It's really the crash data. And Director Snowden hasn't had a chance to run the critical crash data, although he did tell me before the meeting he didn't think there was going to be concerns just from a high level. I'll let him speak to that more if he needs to. But again, I think with minimizing what we can do or how we can do it until those road improvements are done really addresses that primarily.
And also had mentioned maybe modifying the condition to an either-or kind of condition where it states only 24 residential building permits shall be issued, or a temporary island must be installed on the property to restrict traffic, left turns from the property to the intersection prior to the completion of the planned capital improvements. Is that something that the applicant is willing to?
Yes, it is. In fact, just the condition about restricting it to 24 without knowing when those road improvements would be made would make this property unmarketable. So allowing them the consideration, if there is some lag time in TDOT doing the improvements, they can continue with their development, but restricting where the traffic can go so it's away from those areas that are more problematic allows them and their financiers the comfort in moving forward with the development.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Do you have an answer?
Yes, ma'am. I ran those calculations, and yeah, that 1,082 trips does appear to be predicated on a 24 dwelling units an acre. So it essentially, it'd be close to half that, a little over 550 trips with the 12 dwelling units an acre.
And then I have a question for Mr. Queener, if he doesn't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
So everything that you've heard, and you've had conversations, I believe, with the applicant, correct?
Tim Addison, who is one of the immediate neighbors, did. Matter of fact, before all this went down, he made an attempt to buy the property from Ms. Kirby. As a matter of fact, we were willing to form a syndicate to buy the property and keep things basically as they were. I understand this is her inheritance, and she's in her 70s and is looking for probably some place to go. We understand that. We don't want to prevent her from selling it. We don't want to prevent seeing even a couple of more houses put on it. But we don't want to see the fundamental character of the neighborhood change. And I don't know to whom Mr. Mullins is referring, that he's had conversations that other neighbors now that they've been told it's supposedly townhomes to be developed are in approval of it. The people who are on that side of West Beaver Creek Drive are unanimous in opposition. Now, I have not spoken to people on the other side of West Beaver Creek Drive where there are some mini subdivision developments. But I can say everyone on this side of the road was in opposition. And, you know, and again, none of this is any animus against Ms. Kirby or Mr. Mullins. But we're just saying that this is just not appropriate for this location. And we would like to do something privately, if that would help Ms. Kirby out with her situation, and also be able to retain the character of our neighborhood. We're not hostile.
Oh, I don't think you are at all. So were you aware coming in today, were you still under the impression that it was going to be apartments, or were you aware that the intent of the use within the zoning ordinance would be townhomes?
I knew that it was intended to be basically probably closely spaced dwellings.
Okay.
Whether you call it a townhome or as opposed to, you know, duplexes, or, you know, or some of these mega apartment complexes. We didn't think it was that. But we knew that if you run the numbers, you think about this, 12 dwellings per acre. Say you get a family with 2 kids. That's four people in there, okay? And multiply that, you know, times 12, and then multiply that times number almost 5. And that balloons the population potentially up to go like close to 250 people. Look, we're not against people. And matter of fact, my family's often practiced hospitality. We welcome people to come and fish in our pond. You know, we haven't had a problem with litigation. But then again, we haven't had that many people try to pile in on us. It's also, the property is a wildlife refuge. We have a family of turkeys that make a run through this property. We have deer, we have fox, we have all sorts of other things. You do this big development on it, it will destroy their run, the way they come up through the property and up to our pond. So it's an attack upon the wildlife as well. And you say, well, you know, but people got to have a place to live. Well, I agree, but does that mean we got to destroy their habitat as well? Do we have to destroy the character of the neighborhood? I mean, I don't know about y'all, but think about it. If you were in my position, what would you want to see in your neighborhood? That's a question you have to ask yourself. It's one of those golden rule type things.
So here's a question. Do you think the community and the applicant would be willing to come together again to discuss? Is there any potential for additional discussion with those property owners that are currently in opposition?
Mr. Denton, if you'll give your name and county of residence.
Grant Denton, Knox County. First off, thank you guys for your service to the county. It's appreciated. And thank you, Commissioner Lee. I know we met at the property, and you met the property owner, Mrs. Kirby. She is not able to be here tonight. She wants to be here, but with it being dark outside, she doesn't feel comfortable driving in this weather. So I have had conversations with neighbors who some were in opposition, some were in support. I had some people who were in opposition change that after further conversations. One of those neighbors asked me not to make that public, which I'm going to respect. And so what I'd like to point to is the people who are here. Clearly, it's no other neighbors are here supporting us, so I understand and respect that, and it is just Mr. Queener here in opposition. We have postponed this 2 times, not for the community conversations, more so working with Director Snowden, making sure we have the safety concerns addressed, but also understanding that with the PR zoning that we're looking for, there will be a concept plan, a development plan there. Further conversation can be discussed as far as the stream setbacks or potential screening for trees or privacy screening, whatever it may be. And so happy to continue that conversation there. I am not necessarily on a deadline that we couldn't do that, but I do know that the property owner, we have had to delay this purchase agreement, and I know she is pressed to get out of the house. It's not a concern for you guys, I do understand that, but the house she's in is not in the greatest shape, and she is looking to move. I don't think that impacts whether or not this fits the zoning. I look at the TM place type, I feel like it's consistent with the neighborhood. There is OB development to the northeast and the commercial to the southwest as well. So with all that said, I don't know if there's any further questions.
Thank you all for answering my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, this is a question for either Mr. Mullins or Mr. Denton. You know, as I look at this from a satellite view, there are quite a few trees that would be wiped out. You know, would you be willing to accept a requirement on this to replace the trees that are removed, somewhere around the neighborhood of 5 per acre, with at least half of those being shade trees?
Yes, Commissioner Jackson, thank you for that question. And you reached out to me and told me you were going to be asking that question so I could at least talk to my client beforehand and get an answer. And we have talked about that, and we are in agreement with that type of condition should this body wish to impose it.
Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'll turn this over to District Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Snowden, okay. Could you address the little bit of the concern on the wildlife there that Mr. Queener brought up?
Yeah, Commissioner Lee, that's a tough one. And anytime you disturb areas that have been wooded, that's going to be an issue. The one thing I will say with Mr. Queener that I think is very helpful here is him and all the neighbors that he's referring to sit up higher. So it ain't like as this site is developed, water won't, drain down onto them. It'll actually drain away from them. So I think that there is a benefit there that all the disturbance will be on the downhill side and not the uphill side. So I would say that is somewhat of a benefit for an adjacent property owner.
Okay, and I know it's probably going to be, 2 years before TDOT does that change in the road there on Beaver Creek, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I would anticipate hopefully it starting construction next year, probably summer to fall, and then obviously, a lot of work there with signalization. So I would assume, you're looking at a minimum of probably 2 years from today, and potentially a little bit longer, but I think 2 years would be a decent estimate.
So in the meantime, what would you suggest to keep, because just telling people they can't turn left is not going to prevent them from turning left. What could we do to keep that traffic just going to the right?
Yeah, as part of if this were to be approved and they move forward with a concept plan, Amy's staff and my staff would work to make sure that essentially an island that deflects traffic, kind of like you see out on, Emory Road at Clinton Highway, or Emory Road at, Chick-fil-A, where folks physically can't get in. You have to create a physical barrier. We'd probably do something with like a concrete island to where, someone would be very hard pressed to make a left-hand turn out of there. So it would be a physical barrier rather than just signage or marking.
Thank you. Do any other commissioners have any comments?
Commissioner Hill.
Yes, I'd just like to comment. I do hear what the neighbors are saying about your area. Looking at the map, though, you are surrounded in the old plan and the new plan by commercial and business park, and the traditional neighborhood, really reading from what our new comprehensive plan shows, it does fit what the comprehensive plan recommends and does fit the character that the 12 per acre with the townhome concept really does seem to be exactly what we were trying to do, especially given its proximity to Clinton Highway, which is a major thoroughfare in our area. So just some observations there.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Brooks, could you spoon feed me on the stream protection? What does that entail?
Turn it over to Director Snowden because his staff is the one who reviews those when they come in.
Yeah, Commissioner Fox, be glad to. And this does look like a stream. What we consider a stream is anything that shows up on a quad map as a blue line is a stream until the applicant proves otherwise through a hydrological determination. But I would be pretty certain this one is a stream. And if it is, it depends on really the health of the stream. TDEC, and I don't have it in front of me here, but Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation established a scorecard of how healthy that stream is, And if it's either really healthy or really unhealthy, we set a 60-foot buffer on either side, top of bank. If it's just in that non-category to where it's kind of an average stream, we set a 30-foot buffer on the top. So at a minimum, it will have a 30-foot buffer. At a maximum, it may have a 60-foot buffer on either side of the stream.
So if that, because that's basically, that's a basin. It looks like that pond is probably what drains into that stream from the KGIS map.
Correct.
How would runoff be directed away from that? I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, and TDEC is pretty particular. They won't allow you to put a detention pond in line with the stream. Essentially, they won't let the stream flow into the pond and then flow out. You have to set the pond adjacent to it or offside of it and discharge it into it outside, because they just don't want that the aquatic life gets affected by the inset of that pond. So that pond will be offline of that stream, if that would make sense, and we would require that.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, Commissioner Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would make a motion to approve the planned residential zone up to 12 units per acre because it is compatible with the surrounding zoning and consistent with the comprehensive plan, subject to one condition, and also the 5 trees. How did you word that, Commissioner Jackson? 5 trees.
Well, I am going to read right off of the, more or less, the City of Knoxville ordinance here. Is that it would be a minimum of 8 trees per acre, with at least 1/2 of those being a species capable of attaining a height of 50 feet or more at maturity. Such trees shall have a minimum trunk diameter of 2 inches at 6 inches above the ground at planting.
That would be my motion.
Could I get a clarification on the condition, just to make sure? That condition would be the 24 residential building units or the traffic island that would prevent the left-hand turn, is that?
Yes.
Okay, just
Yes.
making sure.
Yes.
Commissioner Snowden, you look a little confused.
Yeah, Amy and I just want a little clarity on that condition. We wasn't sure, so would you care to repeat that by chance, please?
The clarification
On
for
the
landscaping
trees?
and for the left turn.
Really, the left turn is what I'm
yes.
primarily
Yes,
concerned about.
as well.
The left turn. So,
Correct.
yeah, so they just need clarification on the left turn.
Putting the island in or some kind of barrier that would prevent them from turning left on West Beaver Creek.
Commissioner Lee, do you want me to read this for you? I'm happy to
Sure.
read this, sure. Prior to completion of planned capital improvements at the West Beaver Creek and Clinton Highway intersection, either A, only 24 residential building permits shall be issued, or B, a temporary island must be installed on the property to restrict traffic left turns from the property to the intersection. And then the addition of Commissioner Jackson's request to include the vegetation.
Is everybody on board with that?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Lee, a second by Commissioner Jackson.
Could I get clarity on Commissioner Jackson's tree request? I know when we had spoke previously, I know you'd mentioned 5 trees an acre. I was unaware, I know you said that they would be, I can't recall, I'll have to look back at the email. Is that retaining 5 trees an acre that are existing, or is that planting native trees? I was under the impression it was planting native trees.
So I hate to get into retaining trees because you're clearing land. I would prefer to just say, it's easier to just say planting of trees.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yes, would you be agreeable to the 5 trees an acre that we had discussed prior? Would that be okay or acceptable?
That's what we said. 5
Perfect.
trees an
Okay.
acre with at least.
I thought I'd heard something different. I got confused, so I appreciate
5
the
trees an
clarity.
acre with at least half of them being considered shade trees.
Okay.
And the city of Knoxville has a list of the trees that would qualify.
Okay, awesome. On the same page. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to offer an amendment to the motion, placing an additional condition on it that the stream that runs through the property be granted the 60-foot protection rather than the 30-foot to preserve, if we're going to approve this, to preserve the maximum amount of undisturbed space for wildlife and so forth.
Okay, that's your substitute motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Fox and a second by Commissioner Russell. All in favor?
Can I, look,
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Jay, I didn't see you.
thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Snowden, pertaining to the amendment, I have another thing before that, but pertaining to the amendment, are those things set out by TDEC once it's analyzed? I mean, I'm concerned about putting a particular condition on it before the governing body that has to do with water has an analysis. Because if it's a ditch.
Correct. If TDEC did come back and, I mean, they could do a hydraulic termination, and I've seen it where farm ponds, do feed into an area and it looks like a stream, but it's not a stream. So that would be my fear. If it wasn't a stream, then you've potentially imposed a condition on a landowner. So I think there's a potential for this thing not to be a stream based on a hydrologic termination.
And I asked that question, and I think I also, the reason I put my light on wasn't this question, but it was also Mr. Jackson's. I caution this commission as we go through zonings to sort of unilaterally make up stuff as we go. Like if this is our second time in 2 months we've talked about planting more trees, and we're not the city of Knoxville. We don't have a policy just like this. So if we want a reforestation policy, we should vet that out. We should go meet with them, because what we're doing is we're putting conditions on things that the engineering department's team is not going to be able to, they don't know what to enforce and what not to enforce when 1 week it's this and the next week it's that and the next week it's this. This is why we have sort of a set of rules and policies and procedures, because they don't have an enforcement mechanism that's different for every single person. So I would caution, if we have TDEC and we deal with water, let's follow that process. If we want to go back and create a tree plan and have that debate, let's do that. But let's get some uniformity, because I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Snowden, you're going to have a difficult time each month trying to figure out what individual conditions apply to this property owner versus that property owner versus the next one. Am I out of line in this?
Well, I mean, we serve at the pleasure of the mayor and this board, so I mean, whatever conditions you guys want to put on it, I mean, that's why Amy and I are here to take good notes and enforce those conditions. So yeah, I mean, I would say that whatever you guys direct us to do, we'll be happy to do.
Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to put it to Mr. Queener. I think he lives by this stream, and he probably can speak to whether or not it's a legitimate stream. But, I mean, when I look at it, when I look at the aerial view on Google Map, you can see a line of trees that comes down the stream, and typically that's going to be an actual stream and not a ditch. But I would defer to Mr. Queener.
Well, I don't have dirt under my fingernails anymore, but this is a stream I used to dam up constantly as a boy and playing in the woods. As a matter of fact, not anymore than about 9 months ago, I pulled a pretty good size snapping turtle, about yay big, out of it. So this is the overflow from our pond. Our pond is fed by approximately 3 different springs. The flow in August was very minimal. If you see the photographs that I gave you in the handout, that'll show you what the stream down from my pond was doing, and there wasn't a whole lot. It's just because it was an extremely dry August. On the other hand, if you look at the amount of water that we get going over our spillway in the springtime, in particular after a series of summer storms, then it is a torrent, an absolute torrent. So there's always water in the stream. It's just a question of how much. And like I've pointed out, and there's also a picture there for you, the neighbor immediately next to this proposed development, he uses that stream to water his animals. He has cows, he has sheep, goats. That's his water source. And that's why he also has it pooled up so they can drink from it. So it's not a muddy ditch.
All right, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Queener.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Oster. The amendment that you proposed, Commissioner Fox, you said the increasing the setback from 30 feet to 60 feet. So are you speaking a total then of 120 feet?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, 60 feet on each side.
Right, that would have to be undisturbed.
Yes. And that's based upon Director Snowden's recount to us of how TDEC looks at it. So, I mean, I look at it as there's kind of a floor, a basic, at least 30 feet, but maybe up to 60. So in this case, given the testimony we've heard about the wildlife and the longstanding nature of this creek, then I would like to the extent possible, preserve that wildlife and give the wildlife a lot of space to roam, so to speak.
Thank you. Director Snowden, it seems like on prior projects we've talked about the clearance, the setback on the streams had to do with the rating of the streams. So could you talk to us a little bit about that, please?
Sure, yeah. TDEC requires, if the stream is really, really healthy or really, really poor, they require a wider buffer, 60 foot essentially. And obviously the thought is to either protect it from degrading or protecting it from being worse than it is. If it's not in that, either of those scenarios, they allow for a 30-foot buffer. Now those are, and this is where it gets confusing, those are construction buffers. We have permanent buffers that are in our stormwater ordinance that align with those. So TDEX buffers are typically for construction, but we maintain those long-term just because that's something that we feel like is benefit for water quality.
On the surface, Commissioner Fox, I have no objection with, you wanting to protect more of it. I kind of am feeling like muddying the water, so to speak. Speaking of streams, going back to what Commissioner Jay was saying, though, about how currently the policy that is in place right now with TDOT and the county covers that, protects that, and if we start messing with what the in-place ordinances are, I just have concerns that could get a little mucky in the process too. Just my comment on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Fox, on your substitute motion, we need to clarify with what you made for your substitute motion. Does that also include the no turn and also the vegetation plus the 5 trees?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm just putting another level onto what was already in place. That's why I suggested it as a, did I say amendment? It's amending the substitute motion is what it would be. The substitute motion.
You are the substitute motion, because we just had a motion on the floor.
Okay.
So you're the substitute.
Yes, then it's a substitute motion that incorporates the previous recommendations, such as what was brought by Commissioner Jackson.
Okay.
And if I may,
And then also to increase the setback from 30. Yeah, can you restate the setback?
yes, I would, along the length of the stream, a 60-foot buffer on each side. The maximum buffer that TDEC would require versus the minimum buffer.
Okay.
And
All right.
I mean, just to personalize this a little, during my childhood, I grew up in a subdivision that had that kind of feature, and it was delightful. So when I lived in Virginia, so I think it could be beneficial to the residents as well as preserving the wildlife.
Okay. Did you have anything else, Mr. Denton?
Yeah, I just wanted to, thank you, Commissioner Fox, wanted to let the body know we are currently conducting a hydrology study in accordance with TDEC. Have not gotten that back to review, but once we do, we would have an understanding of where everything would fall, and of course would want to be in compliance with the governing body of what they have set for setbacks. So we are currently undergoing that. I just don't have the results back to be able to talk with Mr. Snowden about what that would actually mean for this specific scenario.
Okay. Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Fox, perhaps your amended motion could be adherence to the recommendations of the hydrology study. Just a thought.
May I respond, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Well, when is the hydrology report expected to be received?
We're hopeful to have that back in the next week or two and would have that in place prior to the concept. It does dictate it's currently holding up our engineering for the concept plan because it does dictate setbacks, if it is a stream, what we can do, how to encapsulate it. I'm not sure what it's going to come back. Similar to like Mr. Queener said, when I walked the property, which was not in August but was in July, I was able to walk right across the stream. It was dry at the time, but TDEC has and Director Snowden would be able to speak to this. They have a long list that's more than just is it wet or is it dry at that current time that dictates whether or not it is classified as a stream or a wet weather conveyance. And so because it was in question, we paid to have that hydrology study done just so we would know how to proceed forward.
Okay. So seeing no other questions, we have a substitute motion on the floor by Commissioner Fox and a second by Commissioner Russell. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. All right, substitute motion fails. We're back on the original motion made by Commissioner Lee and seconded by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck with your project. Next item, please.
Item number 14, 11-J-24-RZ is a request of Charles Daniel Paget for rezoning from A agricultural to PR planned residential up to 1.5 dwelling units per acre. Property located at 8015 Andersonville Pike, parcel ID 028075 in the 8th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Paget, if you'll state your name and county of residence for the record, please.
Daniel Paget, 4507 Hobble Lane, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37938.
Thank you. No opposition to this. I don't have written down. Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 1.5 dwelling units per acre because it's consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan and Growth Policy Plan.
Thank you. Mr. Paget, would you like to speak to your project?
It's two single-family homes that are on one property that I just wanted to have the capability to divide if I ever intended to sell them down the road. No imminent plans.
Okay. Do we have any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify with staff's recommendation, the rezoning would allow 3 total lots, correct?
It could yield up to 3 lots, correct?
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, I'll turn this over to District Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so essentially, rezoning this would allow you to build one additional house, correct?
It would. I'm not sure if the land would bear it, but yes, I believe it would, yes.
Okay. I guess looking at this part of Andersonville Pike, Director Snowden, obviously it's in a curve. Were there any concerns with sight distance?
We haven't looked at that detail yet, Commissioner Thompson, but at the time that the development plan comes in, we'll look at that and make sure that if they have to consolidate driveways or put it in a particular location to ensure site distance is available, we'll certainly do so.
All right, thank you. I mean, it's zoned ag, but it's obviously not an operational farm. It's, they're on Anderson Pike, so I have no concerns with this, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve per Planning Commission's recommendations.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Thompson, second by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, sir, and good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item number 15, 11-K-24-RZ is a request of Masana Investments LLC for zoning from A agricultural to PR planned residential up to 9 dwelling units per acre, property located at 2921 Bradley Lake Lane, parcel ID 092057 in the 3rd Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, if you'll give your name and county of residence, please.
Lower this for me. Scott Davis, P.O. Box 11315, Knoxville 37939.
Thank you. Any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 6 dwelling units per acre because it is compatible with the changing conditions and surrounding development, subject to one condition.
Thank you. Commissioners have any questions? Would you like to speak to your project?
No, ma'am. It's been a long night already.
Commissioner Thompson?
No.
Okay. This is in my district, so I'm going to take this. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the PR zone up to 6 dwelling units an acre with these conditions. And I've already spoke to Mr. Davis. So 35-foot landscape buffer C along existing residential, traffic impact study, and at the developer's expense to expand Bradley Lake Road to 20 feet. Do I have a second? I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Oster, second by Commissioner Jay. All in favor? Aye. And there is one condition from planning. I need to add that too, I'm sorry.
Thank you all for your time and service. Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good luck with your project. Let me tell you all what the condition was on that. Improving Bradley Lake Lane to current roadway standards to the access point of future development of the subject property to the entrance of the Spring Lake Farm residential subdivision. So that was from planning. I just wanted to read that for you guys. Would everybody be up to taking about a 10-minute break? Okay, we will be back here at 6:28. We are back in session. Well, that's optimistic. All right. Next item, please.
Item number 16, 11-C-24-PA is a request of William Todd Daniel for a comprehensive plan amendment from SR Suburban Residential and HP Hillside Protection to SMR Suburban Mixed Residential and HP Hillside Protection. Property located at 8303 High School Road, parcel ID 046-20701 in the 7th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins?
Yeah, I'm Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street. I'm here for Mr. Daniels, also in the audience, who's my client and the owner of this property.
Thank you. Any opposition? Don't see any. Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the SMR Suburban Mixed Residential and HP Hillside Protection place types for the entire parcel because it meets the criteria for a plan amendment due to 1, changes of conditions in the area such as existing commercial zoning along High School Road contiguous to the property and established SMR place type existing to the south of the property, and 2, new data regarding population increase leading to the need for new housing, diversity of the housing stock, and integration of neighborhood commercial uses near residential development.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins, would you like to speak to your project?
Yes, I would, briefly. There's not been any neighborhood opposition. In fact, I think there has been several statements that have been uploaded of the neighbors around, and this is Mr. Daniels' credit, talking to his neighbors who are supportive of this. This property, I'll talk about both the rezoning and the plan amendment because they're kind of married to one another. The entire property is 18.42 acres, but there's about an acre and a half that we're asking, once the SMR place type is in place, to go to neighborhood commercial CN zoning. And a couple years ago, Mr. Daniels had most of that 1.5 acres was zoned CA. It was an extension you see on the screen there. There's CA zoning that runs along High School Road there already, and that kind of goes on back to the north to the intersection. And he thought that his son might want to have a house there, and so he changed it to RA that would be able to accommodate single-family residential instead of the CA. And I didn't represent him on that. The CA would have allowed single-family residential also. But regardless, they changed the zoning, and then he decided, after talking to his son, it might be better to have a law office at that location. He is an attorney downtown. He probably lives in his office too, like I do, but he works a few floors above me in the Bank of America building, and thought, well, that he might want to downsize, come into this area where he lives, owns his property, and practice law and open up a small law office, and wanted to look at rezoning this back to something that would allow him to do his law office at that location. And after meeting with staff, I thought that the CN zoning and the SMR place type would be the most appropriate because there's already SMR in the area, and that would accommodate neighborhood commercial zoning, but not any more intensive zoning like the CA that was there. And eventually, we all know he's this 18-acre tract. There's no immediate plans for it to be subdivided or developed, but that's something that's likely to happen in the past, and that would, create a nice commercial, intersection there with the CN zoning with potential future development. So that's kind of what the plan is on this. I know, staff did have some concerns with it, but, considering there's already commercial zoning there, and this is an extension of commercial zoning and would be a more appropriate and more compatible with the scale of what the neighborhoods. The planning commission actually recommended and voted for this unanimously. So I would ask that you would follow suit with planning commission's recommendation and approve the SMR place type, and then the next request, the CN zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I first want to say thank you to the applicant for reaching out to the community members, and also the community members for engaging and submitting positive comments. That's, again, we love when that happens. So very well done on that. I also wanted to just state that the suburban mixed residential place type, it allows for less intense commercial development. So that would be in alignment with what Mr. Daniel would like to do with the property. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I will turn this over to District Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to echo what Commissioner Frazier said. I appreciate getting the letters from the neighborhood. I also knocked on a few doors over there. This property is close to a daycare, and I have spoke with Mr. Daniel. I think he's going to keep this very nice, almost like looking like a house, and it would be a small law office. And I do think it is very appropriate, and I think that I will be approving this too. So I'd like to make a motion, unless any other commissioner wants to make any comment. I would make a motion to approve the suburban mixed residential and hillside protection place types for the entire parcel because it meets the criteria for a planned amendment due to changes in the condition in the area, such as existing commercial zoning along High School Road, contiguous to the property and established SMR place type, existing to the south of the property, and new data regarding population increase, leading to the need for new housing, diversity of the housing stock, and integration of the neighborhood commercial uses near residential development.
Second.
Thank you. I've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Lee, a second by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck with the project. Next item.
Item number 1711-Q-24-RZ is a request of William Todd Daniel for rezoning from RA low-density residential to CN neighborhood commercial. Property located at 8303 High School Road, parcel ID 046-20701, part of, in the 7th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins?
Ben Mullins, 552 West Main Street, here for the applicant.
Thank you. No opposition. Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the CN Neighborhood Commercial Zone because the location is consistent with the intent of the CN Neighborhood Commercial Zone.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins, do you have anything else?
This is just the next step, the CN zoning for the 1.5 acres that's currently RA. that
Okay.
The place type now allows.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In here, it says Planning Commission recommended approval because consistent with the intent of the CN neighborhood zone, but then a staff recommendation says it's inconsistent with the intent of the CN zone. How do we reconcile this? How Planning Commission said it is consistent, but staff says it's inconsistent.
I understand. I think there was a difference in opinion on that. I think the neighborhood commercial zone is intended to allow for smaller scale commercial developments that serve existing neighborhoods. Here, there are existing neighborhoods. There's a daycare there. It's in the more intensive CA, but I think, in all honesty, that entire swath of commercial zoning would be more consistent with neighborhood commercial than it would be the CA, which allows a lot more intensive zones, and it's one of the reasons it's inconsistent with the place type. So I do believe that because there are existing neighborhoods, and this, it would fit the intent to allow there to be some small-scale commercial that would be in line with serving that community. Planning staff has their recommendations. Planning Commission heard the evidence and made their recommendation, which was different.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other questions, I'll turn this over to District Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve the neighborhood commercial zone because the location is consistent with the intent of the neighborhood commercial zone.
Second.
We've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Lee, second by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to go back to item number 1 before we do the zoning appeals.
Item number 1, 11-B-24-RZ, request of Terry and Wilma C. Gaylor for rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential, property located at 1915 Andes Road, parcel ID 105AA05 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. And is Mr. and Mrs. Gaylor here? All right. Commissioner Hill, this is in your district?
Yes, and this is not one that would appear to have had any objection. I suspect they just overlooked it. So I ask that we pass it for 30 days, or pass it to the January meeting.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Frazier. We will defer this for 30 days. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. All right, next item, please.
Item number 20 on page 6 is 11-E-24-PA, which is an appeal by Sandra Kopax, Sandra LLC, of the Knox County Planning Commission's denial of a request for a comprehensive plan amendment from TN Traditional Neighborhood and HP Hillside Protection to CMU Corridor Mixed Use and HP Hillside Protection. Property located at 8710 Chapman Highway, parcel ID 138-10501 in the 9th Commission District.
Thank you. We have the applicant present.
Rob Frost for the applicant, Chair.
Thank you. And what county?
Knox County, 800 South Gay Street.
Thank you. Do we have any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Planning Commission's recommendation was to deny the CMU corridor mixed-use place type because it's incompatible with the surrounding land use and inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and policies.
Thank you. Mr. Frost?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of commission. I'm Rob Frost, 800 South Gay Street, and I'm here for the appellant, Sandra LLC. Sandra LLC is happy to own the historic Ben Bauer home in South Knox County. The large home, barn, and two-car garage are located at the top of an almost 6.5 parcel and has beautiful views of South Knox County and the mountains. We recently passed out before the zoning started part of your meeting, some photographs that show this wonderful property and information about the access, 30-foot wide access easement to the property. Sandra LLC is asking for a plan amendment and a rezoning to allow a small lodge in the existing Ben Bauer home. The home would not be torn down, and the hillside protection area would be respected and not cut down. We believe a plan amendment and a rezoning are appropriate and compatible for the area. To access the property, it sits back from Chapman Highway. It's at 8710 Chapman Highway. And to access the property, you have to drive through approximately 650 feet of property that was recently rezoned to CA. Respectfully, the Sandra LLC property is not worthy of the traditional neighborhood designation. As I already stated, it's almost 6.5 acres. It's mostly flat at the top with very steep and probably unbuildable property behind it. Sandra LLC is making a modest rezoning request. When you look at the context of the recent adjoining and nearby rezonings for higher density residential and commercial zones. A corridor mixed use was recently approved to the south of the property, and that rezoning partially included the driveway to the Sandra LLC property. Also, there was recently approved a rezoning of approximately 100 acres surrounding most of the Sandra LLC property with a density of 3 dwelling units per acre. Bless you. And so if we have almost 6 acres, if we tried to rezone to residential, that would be almost 20 dwelling units. We submit that a small lodge, which is the request, would generate less traffic than if it was developed at the same density of the property around it. We believe that there have been recent changes of condition to adjoining and nearby property in terms of rezoning to commercial and residential zones to support a plan amendment and the requested rezoning by Sandra LLC. A small lodge is not a major traffic generator. It would be compatible with the adjacent residentially zoned areas. In fact, a small lodge would be similar to a residential use, but because of the size of the lodge that Sandra LLC wants to do, it needs the CA zone. My client believes that the rezoning would be fair considering other adjoining and nearby rezonings, as well as because his proposal is less intense and generally compatible with the area. In conclusion, we respectfully request your consideration for the appeal to allow Sandra LLC to bring a nice amenity to South Knox County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. Commissioner Hill.
I apologize.
Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is actually directed to Director Brooks. If we could access the KGIS website, because I think a zoomed-out view would even better explain why this rezone request is not substantial and it would not have an impact on any of the surrounding, like the residential property. Is there a way to do that, Director Brooks?
I'm not controlling the computer.
Oh, okay.
I'm not exactly sure.
Should I come over there? And this is to directly address a statement made at the Planning Commission hearing.
Would you like me to restate the address to find it on KGIS? Would that help?
certainly, while we're pulling this up.
Okay, it's
Mr. Frost.
8710 Chapman Highway.
Could you zoom that out, please? Yes, please. Yeah, keep going, that's good right there. And then if you could go to the Maps tab, and then click Other Maps, and then click Topography, please. This really says it all right here. You can see that the lodge is at the top of that ridge, at the southern portion of that ridge. And then you can see that the residential property that surrounds it is unbuildable, except at the very top, which is, do you know how far that away is, Mr. Frost? That plane from the proposed site?
I do not, Commissioner. I do know that, 650 feet from Chapman Highway, you go approximately 653 feet through already zoned CA property before you start to get closer to the Sandra LLC property.
Could you kindly go to the political and zoning maps?
What above?
I'm sorry, yeah, the planning and zoning, yeah. And then click on Knox County zoning, please. And I think that says it all as well. You can see there's a commercial that lines Chapman Highway all through there. And this is the tract of land that's designated RA, and it's going to be consistent with that other CA zoning that just lines Chapman Highway. And for all intents and purposes, because of that extreme hill slope, it is adjacent to Chapman Highway. I mean, there's no other usable property between that tract and Chapman Highway, is that right?
That's fair.
Yes.
The elevation, as Commissioner Fox was alluding to, the elevation builds as you get to the top of the property, and you can see the photographs that we handed out that shows the great views of South Knox County.
Commissioner Thompson?
I'll defer to Commissioner Jay for now.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Frost, under the current zoning, just as a use under review, couldn't they not operate a boarding house under the current zoning?
I don't think that they could have the number of units, Commissioner Jay. They're wanting 8 to 10 units, and that, I think a use on review wouldn't allow that big when you take into account the parcel.
8 to 10, like, structures?
No, lodging units within the Ben Bauer home. The home's approximately 5,000 square feet.
Ms. Brooks, do you know?
It says for lodging and building house, not more than 12 people.
12 people?
People.
So it doesn't have, it has a limit, not like units, but.
Correct. That's my understanding.
Mr. Frost, and I would ask this maybe of all the other commissioners too. I understand exactly what you're trying to do. And I wonder if it sets a precedence, though, to essentially say commercial on our ridge tops is, okay. I mean, even if it's close enough to another commercial node. I know this site is developed and it's cleared, but let's say another person on another ridge line wanted to put another commercial structure, would we start adding that? I mean, would this set a precedence for allowing other people to do the same thing?
I understand what you're saying, Commissioner, and obviously each case is different, but the Sandra LLC property, I mean, it's there. You're going to have very limited other opportunities. Like I said earlier, the area around it right now is 3 residential units per acre, and we have almost 6.5 acres. So what we're wanting is almost like a light CA, because that's what we need to be able to put in the number of lodging units that we're looking for. Now, I definitely understand what you're saying, but it's at the top of the property, and the only way to get there, I mean, it's a limited access, 30-foot wide easement. So we think that, you know, this is worthy of this commission's consideration.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was at this planning commission meeting and heard this one, and I found it interesting because what you say you're wanting to do initially made sense, and then I kind of understood where you're coming from, and then I've been on that side of it where, you know, you go to planning commission and I feel like commissioners they had a lengthy conversation about this one because it was kind of a sticky point, because, you know, there were several who wanted to try to figure out how they could make it work, and unfortunately they weren't able to get to that point because of some of the concerns that Commissioner Jay brought up, and I understand that you need certain units to make it work, but what we have to do is look at, you know, the zoning, and whether your plans come to fruition or not, the zoning is what it is within those guidelines. And so, unfortunately, I wrestled with this one too, and I don't see a way. For me personally, I don't see a way around it. So I'll be supporting commission and staff on this one.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've looked at this, had several conversations, and in my opinion, I feel like the proposed use is less intense than what could currently be developed there. And I also like the fact that it is preserving a longstanding family's home. I understand where Commissioner Jay is coming from with hillside and ridgetop protection. I've always been an advocate of that. But the fact of the matter is they're wanting to take a home that's been a part of the community for decades and turn it into something that we all could enjoy on the top of a ridge, which I really like that idea. I really like it a lot. Also, like I said, the zoning, again, what he's planning to use it for is less intense, and that appeals to me as well. So I will be supporting the appeal of the plan amendment and the zoning.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay. Then because I'm like Commissioner Frazier, I like the intent, the use. Is there, I guess I'll direct this to Director Brooks, is there another zoning, is there something that for this particular use that would be more appropriate?
That's a great question. Obviously, I think this particular case shows the age of our zoning code, and another reason why it's so important that we are in the process of updating it. The lodging and boarding house is a very dated definition and term. That is one that we look to as an option. Obviously, the applicant has said that, 12 persons is too limiting. Otherwise, that could be pursued. Also, we looked to the, what's it called? I just blanked on the name of it, but it's rural retreat, which requires a minimum of 10 acres. And obviously, this property doesn't have the 10 acres. So,
Gotcha, okay.
So that is the challenge that we ran into.
Okay. But if it had the 10 acres, then they could do a rural retreat.
We would have recommended rural retreat once we learned about what they wanted to do. But obviously, the way that we look at this is we look at all the different types of uses that are allowed and as part of the rezoning process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'll turn this over to District Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we adopt the plan amendment as proposed by the applicant/appellant, which is requesting plan amendment from traditional neighborhood and hillside protection to corridor mixed use and hillside protection, because we are talking about the place type at this time. And I just want to add that I'm a strong proponent of this project. It has spectacular views that can be shared with the community and with people from outside the community, and I'm excited about the prospect of having a high-end commercial operation in South Knox County, and that part of South Knox County. And I add that the honey that they're proposing to also market is delicious. So that's my motion.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Fox and a second by Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Director Brooks, is it possible for us, because I know we're going to be getting into the UDO and looking at some of these things to bring it more up to date, is there a way of, earmarking or making a point to look at specific cases like these, to where when we did have discrepancies, to say, hey, this came up during planning or during our zoning hearing, say, this was one where we actually did have some friction, to make sure when we're going through the UDO, we do specifically hit situations like these?
Yes, Commissioner, we've absolutely been keeping track of where we have found gaps in the code, where we don't have definitions that quite fit and that need to be updated and modernized. I believe that's what you're asking. We can't go back retroactively and address this for the specific site, though.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to clarify, the motion is to approve the appeal.
That's correct. I mean, I read from the,
Just want to make sure I'm clear. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to ask the sponsor of the motion if he would consider a friendly amendment to the motion to approve the plan amendment from TNHP to CMUHP, because it meets two of the plan amendment criteria. One, changes of conditions surrounding land use, and supports the policies and actions, goals of the plan.
I do accept that.
Okay. Does a second? Okay. All right, we got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Fox, a second by Commissioner Lee. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, please.
Item number 21, 11-S-24-RZ is an appeal by Sandra Kopax, Sandra LLC, of the Knox County Planning Commission's denial of a request for rezoning from RA Low-Density Residential and A Agricultural to CA General Business. Property located at 8710 Chapman Highway, parcel ID 138-10501 in the 9th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Frost?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no further remarks unless I'm here for any questions.
Okay, Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission deny the CA General Business Zone because it's incompatible with the intent of the zone and adjacent land uses.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Fox, would you care if I just jumped in and went ahead and made a motion?
I'd be pleased to defer to you.
Thank you. That would be great. I make a motion to approve the CA General Business Zone because it is compatible with adjacent land uses.
All right, I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Frazier, a second by Commissioner Lee. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck with your projects.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Thank you. Next item, please. Oh, we do have one on public forum. Mr. Munger? Thank you for your patience. If you'll state your name and county residence for the record, and you've got 5 minutes.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Lee Munger. I live at 6401 Hammer Road in Knox County. Wanted to bring to your attention something. It's my understanding that you guys appoint the Planning Commission, along with the City Council also appoints some Planning Commission. But during the November meeting, that was in excess of 4 hours. I was told as a new resident to the community here that, quote, I should have been involved in the comprehensive land use plan, where I've only lived here for 8 months now. And from my records that I could look up online, that was started back in 2021. So I'm kind of curious how a commissioner can tell a resident that he needs to be here and involved when I lived in Cincinnati 4 hours away 3 years ago. I find this to be extremely unprofessional, extremely condescending, and of questionable ethics. Secondly, I did notice that you have 6 sitting members of the Planning Commission with ties to the real estate market, real estate development, and the real estate finance world. Seems like a conflict of interest to me for them to continually pass things through that are going to benefit themselves. I would ask that you guys look into this a little further. I have a bunch of other comments, but I'm going to save them for another time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you again, Mr. Munger, for your patience of the long meeting. We appreciate it. Other,
Can I respond?
oh, yes, Commissioner Frazier.
I'd just like to respond if I could. First, thank you for hanging with us, and I apologize that you had such a negative experience. That's not our intention or what we would hope at all. And thank you for moving to Knox County. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. I just wanted to clarify quickly, though, the city mayor and the county mayor appoint the planning commissioners.
Okay.
And that is by state statute. So that, unfortunately, isn't something that we can address, because I can tell you, in the past 2.5 years that I've been in this seat, I've had those conversations multiple times. I will tell you that I've had very positive conversations about the skill sets and the experience of planning commissioners going forward, looking at potential candidates who meet a more broad array of professions, trying to get out of the box. So I want you to know that I hear you and I agree with you. And I can only speak on my behalf, but I'm having as many conversations as I can about those appointments and the training and the education of planning commissioners. And I will continue to have those conversations. So thank you for expressing your feelings, and we take those very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. On to other business. Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to remind everyone that Saturday is Wreaths Across America, and we will be putting wreaths on every veteran's grave at any of the veterans cemetery. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that starts at 8.
No, it's later.
12 o'clock. Why did I think 8?
Commissioner Jay.
Yeah, Commissioner Jay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, I sent you all an email with an update on the Junior Commissioner Program, just with some encouragement to please everybody pass the word out, contact your civic organizations, your schools, anybody, post online. And we always have a flurry of applications in the last 24 to 48 hours. It happens every year, but it doesn't mean we're going to wait till next week to keep talking about it. So everybody, please pass the word and help us promote the program. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Just to remind everybody, we are dressing for Christmas next Monday, so bring out your fancy duds. We might have a contest. If no other business come before this commission, we are adjourned.